Hey, Ori. There is no everyone. I am everyone. Hey, Princess. How are you? Hey, you went to the hood? You made it. I wasn't sure if you were going to get to. Mine was non productive. Hey, Miss Starling. My day was non productive. Thank you. Just trying to get another headache. Well, you can plug his ears if it gets too bad. You don't have to TikTok, Nina. You don't have to download a video or anything. Get used to get used to the videos and what's out there, and build you some, get some people to follow you, because if you don't have people follow you when you start posting videos, nobody's going to want to look. So Miss Shirley Ori stepped over to the dark side. She downloaded Instagram and um, TikTok. She'll be hooked in no time. Few more minutes. Am I going to have an author tonight? Nina, are you still on here? Wish I could tell who the people are that were peekabooing. Yeah, the best thing to do is not to get on TikTok and just start rolling out the videos if you don't know what you're doing. That ain't even how it works. Still suffer. You know what? Boobs. This is the top of my boobs. My boobs are actually way down here. But boobs, chest, whatever, is all made for to catch all for food. Come to that conclusion. What have I got all over my shirt? Oh, that just looks better now, don't it? Huh? Whatever that was, I should have left it alone. I had salad for supper. It's Zaxby salad. Oh, they're on there. Oh yeah. Wait till you get to wait till you get over there to good side of Kink Talk. You'll find it, don't worry. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. Alright, so Prologue. This is the Moon's Warrior book 2 in the Moon series by Miss Amanda Steele. Let me see if I can get some music. Well, that's what's missing is some music. Let's do some. Hmm.
Sunday morning, man, she woke up fighting mad.
Do some loop combs, y'all. Let's see how many hot guys. All right. So let me go back. There. Leading them to accept the greatest gift that a shifter could receive, the gift of a mate. The long-awaited prophecy was finally fulfilled, and it brought love and happiness to every shifter by allowing them to accept the gift given to them by the moon goddess of being able to bond with their mates once again. I wish we had mates. And I need plural mates. Yes. Because it takes that many to take care of me. And it was all thanks, being able to bond with their mates once again. And it was all thanks to the one that is now known as. I knew that was going to happen. And it was all thanks to the one that is now known as the Alpha King Marcus and his beloved mate, Luna Queen Olivia. The goddess chose these two to fulfill their destiny of restoring that what should have never been taken away from shifters in the first place. The two of them, with the help of their friends, faced many obstacles in their journey and didn't give up until they accomplished their goal and brought peace to all shifter communities, uniting them all once again with the way the moon goddess intended. While every mate couple could display their love for each other freely and accept their bond, one had a different destiny. His his was a destiny to help lead the ancient warriors known to all as the White Moon Warriors. The legendary one known as Azrael led the warriors alongside his friend Alpha King Marcus, protecting him and his new queen Luna Olivia, maintaining peace and keeping a watchful eye out for the possibility of a threat that might once again rise up. Accepting his fate to roam this world alone, Azrael felt lonely, and in his heart he wished he could share what other shifters did, a powerful love connection. With a heavy heart, he accepts what he cannot have or what he thought he couldn't have. Dum, 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 dum. Chapter 1, The New Beginnings, Azrael. The whiz of air sounded near my ear as I ducked my head down, trying to avoid fists as they flew towards me. I saw an opening, so I quickly swung my fist and made a blow, drawing out a groan from my opponent. Only that was reckless as I got hit in the same place, making me groan out this time. Damn, Marcus! His lips stretched in a grin as he charged at me again, colliding his body into mine. We both stumbled and fell onto the mattress, but that didn't stop us. We continued to wrestle and throw punches. The clearing of a throat made Marcus and I stop our train and look up at Logan, who was shaking his head with his arms crossed over his chest. What is it? Marcus asked him as we untangled from each other and got back up to our feet. Luna Queen Olivia has sent me to tell you both to cut your practice short and go get ready because the party is starting soon. We both groaned as we would have rather trained than attend a party. Logan started to turn away but paused and said, Please do as she asks. I don't want to get grilled by her or my mate, thank you. We both chuckled when we heard his plea, and Marcus said, Don't worry, we're coming. Logan visibly relaxed and walked away, while I stood there and looked at Marcus with narrowed eyes, crossing my arms over my chest. He looked at me questioningly. What? Why the hell do I need to go to the party? Rolling his eyes, Marcus said, If I have to go, then you have to as well. Fine, I said, not liking the idea of attending the party. The reason was not one I wanted to share with anyone out loud. Admitting the truth, even to myself, pained me. Yes, I was and am happy about my new family and friends having their mates, but when you're the only one destined to live your life alone forever without someone you can fully open up to and give your heart to love them unconditionally, it hurts. That's what crushed my heart every time I saw a happily mated couple. No one no one knew of my deepest desires, but I accepted my fate and am learning to live knowing that I will never have a mate. But what if I decided to choose someone instead? Walking side by side, Marcus and I reached the old elders' mansion that is now our home and the center of every shifter community. We walked inside, climbing up the stairs to go get ready for the party. Just as I was about to go to my room, Marcus placed his hand over my shoulder, stopping me from entering my room. Is everything okay? He asked me. The confusion was written all over my face, so he rephrased his question. You've been in deep thought since we finished training, and even before then. So what's going on? I could see he was worried as a friend and as my family, since that's what we were now, closest brothers. So I contemplated telling him what was on my mind. Deciding it would be better to leave that conversation for another time, I said, it's nothing, honestly. Seeing he was about to protest, I added, okay, seeing he was about to protest, I added, I will tell you, but not today, later. Love this song, y'all. Sorry. All I can think about is getting along. What could be the door? Seeing the black dress at the floor. I gotta turn this down or I'm gonna be singing it. Like you loving me all my life. Oops, too low. Apparently there's no half button there. Okay. Marcus nodded and we agreed to meet downstairs as soon as we were ready for the party. Closing the door behind me the moment I entered my room, I took the clean clothes I prepared to wear and went straight to the shower, hoping that it would not just wash off the sweat and dirt from my body, but also help me clear my head from the thoughts that for some unknown reason kept haunting me lately. Hey Amanda. After my shower, I dried off and put my clothes on. I took one last look in the mirror before I stepped aside and walked down the stairs to meet Marcus. The funny thing was, we were both approaching the staircase as we finished dressing at the same time. The moment we got downstairs, we could see the Olivia and Lizzie were busy assigning tasks for every member who hadn't already been given a task, trying to finish preparing everything for the party that would soon begin. Marcus whispered to me, we better leave, or I'm sure she'll assign something to us too. Chuckling at his silliness, the sharp tone of his mate reached our ears as she said, well, since you so sweetly proposed it, I'd have to be a fool to deny you your wish, darling. Closing our mouths and preparing for the worst, we waited for our task. You can both help these men set the tables, secure them so they're steady this time. Marcus, please, not like what happened last time. I chuckled as Marcus said, well, ants are hungry too, you know. Olivia rolled her eyes. Why do I even bother sometimes? Marcus wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer to him, and said, because you because you love me just as much as I love you. I didn't want to watch them kiss, so I walked away and picked up two of the tables that Olivia wanted to be placed outside and carried them out. Soon after, Marcus joined and helped with setting the rest of the tables up. Ev- After everything was ready, we all hid in the garden and waited for Annie and Tanner to join us. Thankfully, we didn't need to wait for too long, as a few minutes later the front door opened and we heard two familiar voices echoing inside the mansion. Come on, please, just for a little, Tanner pleaded with Annie. I looked curiously at Marcus, and he shrugged his shoulders and glanced worriedly at Olivia, who was standing next to him, biting her lip nervously. A few moments passed before a small voice we now knew was Annie's said, "Okay, okay." When Tanner flipped the light switch on, lanterns lit up the garden and everyone yelled, "Surprise!" Annie gasped and tears filled her eyes, and Olivia and Lizzie rushed over to her and hugged her tight. The front door opened and James and Mandy entered the garden, followed by Talia. I know Talia because I don't really know. Her eyes found mine the moment she walked into the garden and she congratulated Annie for her baby shower party and walked straight towards me. Woohoo! Naked HD. Come on, baby. We can strip it down. What other kind of online strips would you have without clothing? Or with clothing? Talia? Or Talia? Is that what it is? Okay. Let's see. The front door opened and James and Mandy entered the garden, followed by Talia. Her eyes found mine the moment she walked into the garden and she congratulated Annie for her baby shower party and walked straight towards me. Hey, she greeted me with a smile. Hey, she greeted me with a smile. I smiled back and said, "Hi, good to see you." I know, you missed me, didn't you? She teased. I rolled my eyes and offered her a drink, and when I went to get it for her, I stopped by to congratulate Annie first. She was being watched carefully by Tanner as usual. I gave her a hug and kissed her cheek and said, "Congratulations, Annie. You will be a wonderful mother to this little baby boy. And if you ever need help, you'll know all you need to do is ask, and I'm here for you. Happy baby shower." Sniffling, she wrapped her arms around my wet neck and hugged me tightly as she weakly said, "Thank you." A moment later, I went to get Talia her drink, and the party started. Everyone was having fun dancing and laughing, and there was some funny baby shower games. It was good to see Annie laugh, even if it was just now and then, but it was progress. And we could all see that the biggest help to getting her back up on her feet was Tanner. Watching all the children playing with each other, running around and screaming made me smile. I was watching some of them gently rubbing Annie's tummy when a voice startled me, shaking me from my thoughts. Do you want a little pup of your own?" I choked on my beer and spilled some on my shirt when I heard Talia's words. She laughed out loud, patting me. Vincy, the only reason you're on it is because you're afraid that I'll take their advice and start stripping, darn. Because you know me. She laughed out loud, patting my back as I tried to compose myself. "What are you trying to say, Talia?" Talia. She stood up onto her tiptoes and gazed and gave me a mischievous smile before pressing her lips onto mine and walking away, still laughing at my reaction. That woman. Chapter 2. Talia Memories. It was a beautiful sunny day as I walked through the forest heading to meet my new friends Olivia, Lizzie, and Annie. Being a white witch had its perks, and our purpose was to use our magic to do good deeds. Since the moment the war against the Dark Army of the notorious Demon King Aladar ended. I've been using my powers to help Annie and her siren heal from the loss of their mates. That's why I'm headed once. That's where I'm headed once again today. The birds were happily singing from the trees, and the little forest animals peeked their heads from their hiding places when they heard me approaching. I lifted my head, smiling into the warm sun that shone down through the branches, and inhaled, taking in the sweetest fresh air. I let the memories crawl back into my mind. Talia, Talia, wake up, wait up. As I ran through the forest laughing, I could hear his footsteps close behind me, the rush of excitement and joy filling my heart. Azrael was chasing me. He reached for me and said, "Gotcha." But I jumped ahead and avoided his grasp. I looked around for a place to hide and found a tree nearby and went to hide behind it. He stopped running and looked at me with a big smile on his face. "You know you can't outrun me." Giggling, I placed my hands onto the bark and peeked behind the tree. "Maybe, but I can always try." Grinning widely, he rushed towards me, and I squealed and pushed away from the tree to run again. I only made it 2 steps before his arms snaked around my waist and lifted me in the air, successfully stopping me. "Ass, put me down, you silly wolf," I said, joy clear in my voice. He gently placed me down on the ground, and I turned to face his beautiful features, loving the way his eyes shone with joy. We were both out of breath, so we just stood there for several long moments looking into each other's eyes. When I saw his eyes look down at my lips, my heart started racing faster than I thought was possible. Everything around us disappeared, and minutes passed with us staring into each other's eyes. He moved closer to me, and I felt the warmth of his body on my skin, like an invisible thread that drew us closer. He leaned his head down towards mine, and I knew we were about to kiss for the very first time. Slowly, I lifted my head, feeling his breath tickle my face as I closed my eyes and patiently waited to welcome what my heart had desired for far too long. Reaching the packlands, I shook my head, trying to rid my mind of the memories of the past as I walked towards the old mansion. Several pack members greet me as I pass by, and when I get to the door, I let myself inside just in time to meet with Olivia and Lizzie as they walk out from one of the rooms. "Talia, Talia, here, you're here," Olivia says. She rushed over and hugged me tightly, welcoming me to her home. "It's good to see you again, Luna," I said, bowing my head. She nudged my shoulder and said, "Please, we are friends. Call me Olivia." I smiled at her, taking her warm words to heart. "Thank you, Olivia." With a smile, Lizzie said, "Can I get can I greet her can I greet her as well, or are you the only or only you have the honors?" Giggling, Olivia took a step back to let Lizzie hug me. It's good to see you, dear. We saw each other a week ago, and you two sound like we haven't seen each other for months," I teased. They both laughed, and Olivia said, "Well, we love it when you come to visit us." "Oh, is it us or someone else? And no, I don't mean Annie," Lizzie teased with a wink. I just rolled my eyes, already used to them teasing me with this way. We headed to the now familiar room where Annie was waiting for me. Before I opened the door, I asked the girls, How is she these days? How is she these days?" They both exhaled sadly, and Olivia said, "Sometimes she's almost like her old self, and sometimes she just sits there and looks out the window." I nodded, and Lizzie added, "But but at least she's eating and sleeping normally now. Also, Tanner's still helping a lot, and it's obvious she feels comfortable around him," Olivia said, and Lizzie nodded in agreement. "Okay, well, let me go out inside and check her out. You two can join us as soon as we finish." I pressed on the door handle softly, and the door squeaked when I gently pushed it open, revealing Annie sitting silently in the corner, lost in her thoughts as she stared out the window. I guess it was one of those days. Annie? There was no response that would have proved she heard me, so I took a few steps closer to her to try again to gain her attention. Annie, I asked again. Slowly she turned and looked my way, and I immediately saw the unshed tears that filled her eyes. She blinked, trying to stop them from falling. Got a good song. Strawberry wine. I rushed to her and held her hand in my own. It's okay, darling. I miss him. She barely managed to get her words out before her voice broke and her tears fell down her cheeks. I wrapped my arms around her and let her cry into my shoulder. I could feel her heart's sorrow, the unbearable pain she was feeling due to the loss of her mate. Placing my palm on her back, I whispered the chant that would ease the pain of her broken heart. Luna Olivia Cordolora Porkin. Yeah, we're not doing all those words that I think you just kind of twisted regular words around. I don't know any of this. Which translated to, by the moon, take away the pain from this tortured heart and heal it with love and fill it with happiness once again. I repeated the chant a few times as an orange light glowed in the palm of my hand. After a few minutes, her tears stopped and I could feel her pain slowly decreasing. I pulled back just a little and saw her tear-stained face looking at me as I wiped away the fallen tears from her face. Cupping her face, I said, I know it's hard to shake away the pain, but you're not alone. You have all of us that are here with you. And most importantly, soon you will have your little bundle of joy to love and protect as well. I can see there is more for you in this life, but to welcome it into your life, you need to fight and then you will understand. Taking in a deep breath, as she rubbed her heavily pregnant belly, she looked down and smiled, saying, Thank you. I will try. I smiled and stood up and then heard the door opening. When I turned to see who it was, I saw Tanner coming in, looking at me first and then Annie. His eyes were filled with worry as he quickly went to her side, letting his knees hit the floor as he kneeled in front of her, cupping her face and inspecting her. Are you okay? Why were you crying? Is everything okay with the baby? As I was about to answer him, I noticed Annie raise her hand and place it on his cheek. He leaned into her touches. She said, I'm fine and the baby's fine. Don't worry so much or you will get wrinkles. She gave him a small smile and I headed to the door to give them their privacy. When I walked out of the room, I saw Olivia and Lizzie watching the scene that I just witnessed as well. Chapter 3, Talia. I glanced back at Tanner and Annie again and smiles when I saw. I glanced back at Tanny and Annie again and smiles when I saw they had their hands pressed over each other's hearts. They had a special bond, even if they weren't mates. Closing the door, I turned back to Olivia and Lizzie, and they led me to the back side where a large garden was. We sat on the patio chairs when a young female brought out some cold lemonade and cookies. She was crying? Lizzie asked the moment we were left alone. Pouring myself some fresh lemonade, I said, she was. Olivia placed her glass on the table after taking a drink and asked, will she be okay? I was silent for a moment, thinking about the vision that came to me on the day of the baby shower. All right, now then she's going to describe the vision. Walking away from Azrael, I could feel his eyes still following my every move. I couldn't hold back the smile on my face from seeing him spill his drink all over himself just because I teased him a little. I headed over to where Olivia, Mandy, and Lizzie were. What made you smile over there? Mandy asked with a knowing smile, making Olivia and Lizzie look at me curiously. I looked over at Azrael and saw him wiping off his shirt, mumbling something that made Marcus laugh next to him and pat his back. I didn't know what Marcus said to him, but it still made me smile. Like he could feel my gaze on him. Azrael stopped drying off his shirt, looked up, and locked eyes with me. I felt the blush rise up over my cheeks, so I turned away quickly, but not fast enough as I saw him smirk at me, clearly noticing my red cheeks. That ass, I mumbled to myself, completely forgetting that I was in the company of Olivia, Lizzie, and Mandy. Someone is shy, Mandy said with a smirk. Lizzie giggled, but thankfully Olivia wrapped her arm around my shoulder and said, "Ladies, please." So, what if Talia is in denial about her feelings toward Azrael, and we all can see how they look at each other? Let's be nice and don't tease her. I'm sure she'll admit it when she's ready to. Mandy and Lizzie grinned, and I just stood there shocked and speechless with my mouth hanging open. "It's okay. They won't tease you anymore," Olivia said, smiling wildly at me. All I could do was blink. When I finally found my voice, I asked, Was I really that obvious?" What, we have another one? Dang it. We're busy tonight, aren't they? Okay. Um. Oh, yes. We all saw that, Mandy teased with a wink. Once the girls finished teasing me, we played games with Annie, trying to keep her spirits up, and it seemed to be working. I couldn't help but notice how no matter where I went, Azrael was always somewhere nearby. Not that I minded. We stole glances throughout the room, and when he'd catch me looking his way, he'd give me that smirk that made me weak with desire. There was a Yeah, you girls know that smirk, don't you? There were a few times when there were a few times he even winked at me, and it almost did me in every time. Oh man, you guy can wink at me, and I will just wet myself. Y'all. I'm talking about 4 pennies. You'd have to change them. Everyone's laughing and having fun, and as soon as the music started, Marcus walked up to Olivia, about to ask her for a dance, only for Damon to snatch her hand, grin at Marcus, and say, "Sorry, buddy, but this is my jam. Come on, little firecracker." Damon, stop. Damon, stop calling me that already, I heard Olivia say to him as they started to dance, but his grin only grew wide. Nope, never happening. Sorry, little firecracker. Marcus shook his head next to me, laughing as he watched the two good friends dance. "They will never change," he said. I could see the love he had for his mate, and I know he let Damon get away with these things only because of how close they got during the dark times. "No, they will not," I said with a chuckle and took a drink of my lemonade. Azrael joined us and offered Marcus a drink. After he took a drink, he asked Azrael, "So, why don't you ask Talia to dance?" Azrael looked at him, then looked at me, trying to think of an answer, but I beat him to it. "That would be a bad idea." Azrael frowned and Marcus looked at me curiously. "Why is that?" he asked. Once again, my cheeks reddened, and as I looked over at Azrael, he clearly wasn't going to answer Marcus, so I said, "One time, a long time ago, we danced, and well, let's just say I don't really know how to dance, and I stepped on his feet the whole time." Azrael, as he remembered that day, shook his head and smiled. "It was not that bad." Snorting, I said, "I kicked you in the groin." Marcus burst out laughing while Azrael made a sour face and said, "Okay, that was the only part that was not nice." We all laughed, and the sound of Azrael's laugh making me smile, though I tried not to show how it affected me. When we turned our attention to the dance floor, Damon was twirling Olivia around, and they were both laughing. It was obvious how much fun they were having. It made me so happy to see them together after all the time they were apart during the dark times. I looked around, searching for Annie, and found her sitting at one of the tables. When Tanner joined her, he said something to her with a smile on his face, offered her his hand, and helped her up and led her to the dance floor. It was so sweet how they started goofing around to make her smile. From where I stood, I overheard two males talking as they watched Tanner and Annie. One of them said, "Seriously, dude, look at them. He's changed drastically. Since we returned from the Darklands, all he does is wait on her hand and foot. Hell, she's not even his mate." The other male nodded and said, "No, but it's his choice." The first one rolled his eyes. "He doesn't hang out with us anymore. Just yesterday I saw him deny Stacy as she stood half naked in front of him in front of his room. Stacy, dude. Who in their right mind would turn down a night with her?" I rolled my eyes. I didn't care to hear any more of their conversation. Looking at Tanner and Annie again, I sent a silent thank you to the goddess because the smile on Annie's face was put there by Tanner. Looking up at the clear sky, I watched the birds flying above when suddenly something caught my attention. Something was falling from the sky. Could it be a fallen star? But it was daytime, so that wasn't possible, or was it? Suddenly, everything before me disappeared, and before me was a completely different scene. There was a blanket spread out on the grass with a basket full of food next to it, and a woman sitting on the blanket holding something in her arms. I looked closer and realized the woman was Annie. She was holding a small baby against her chest, cooing at it with a smile on her face. Then I saw a tall silhouette walking towards her and the baby, and when they sat next to the two of them and caressed the baby's cheek with her finger, Annie smiled wildly and looked genuinely happy. I wondered who the person was, and then like a veil was lifted. I could see their face clearly. It was Tanner. The three of them looked so happy, like a family. Before I could see anything else, the picture before me disappeared. I blinked a few times and felt distorted until I heard a familiar voice. Trying to decide what kind of voice this is. Okay. You, you, my child, are serving your purpose, and I have heard your plea and will grant your wish, and give the one that had her love brutally ripped away from her another chance at happiness. You will need to help her fight her pain so that she can move on and be happy with her new life. Go and fulfill your duty, and when the time is right, I will reward you. Chapter 4, Double Trouble. Talia. Blinking away the memory of my vision, I realized Olivia and Lizzie were staring at me with concerned expressions. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked me. I gave her a smile. "Yes, I'm fine. Just had a slight unexpected journey to the memory world." "Oh," they both exclaimed at the same time. I chuckled at how sweet they were and took a sip of my refreshing lemonade when Lizzie asked, "So, what memory were you remembering?" I smiled and said, "It's not up to me to reveal all the secrets. Some are meant to stay a mystery, but I can say it was a pleasant memory." I could see she wasn't too happy with my answer, but she didn't push for more. Instead, we shared some homemade cookies and talked about what happened this week while I was away. A little while later, she worried about Annie. Olivia, still worried about Annie, Olivia asked me, "Do you think Annie will get through this and be okay?" "I believe so. She just needs a little more time," I reassured her. After chatting for a while longer, we saw Tanner leaving the house and joining some of the young warriors. Seems seems they're done, so maybe it would be good if we go and check on Annie now, Olivia suggested. As we headed to the house to visit Annie, Olivia unexpectedly grabbed my arm tightly. And when I reached for her, thinking she may have just lost her footing, I noticed her eyes were glossed over and she was about to lose consciousness. Olivia? Olivia, open your eyes! There was no response, and just as I was about to use my powers to see what was wrong, I heard Lizzie's weak voice say, Talia, I don't feel so good. I looked at her just before she fell to the ground. I extended my hand out quickly while still holding Olivia in my lap, and as the light shone out from my palm, I spoke the word prohib- prohibivere, which translated to stop. This stopped her from hitting the ground and kept her floating in the air. While I was trying to figure out how to get Olivia and Lizzie inside, I heard a pair of footsteps approaching. Damon was looking back and forth between Olivia, who was in my lap, and Lizzie, who was being held in the air by my magic, clearly not sure what was going on or how he should help. Little help here, please, I said, setting my eyes on Lizzie so he could pick her up. He walked with Lizzie in his arms towards Olivia and I and said, Here, give her to me. Then he picked Olivia up with his free arm, allowing me to stand up. We need to get them inside quickly. Just be careful how you carry them, I told him. And he wasted no time and carried the two of them inside. When we got inside, an older female gasped, said, Dos míos, dos mío. Now that I understand. It would be best if we put them in their rooms. Rosa, show Damon where Lizzie's room is, please, I said, and she took off with Damon following her. When we reached Lizzie's room, he gently placed her in her bed, and Rosa returned from the adjoining bathroom with a wet towel, placing it over Lizzie's forehead. Rosa, could you please stay here with Lizzie until I return to check on her? I asked with Damon as I headed toward the door with Olivia. Si, of course, Rosa answered while gently patting the wet towel on Lizzie's head. Damon and I rushed upstairs to the floor that belonged to Olivia and Marcus. I opened the door to their bedroom and rushed to the bed to pull back the blankets so he could lay her down, then ran straight to the bathroom to get a wet towel. When I returned, Damon was sitting next to Olivia, watching her with worried-filled eyes. What the hell happened? Damon asked me as I placed the wet towel on Olivia's forehead the same way Rosa did for Lizzie. I don't know. Everything was fine. We were heading inside to go check on Annie when Olivia grabbed my arm and lost consciousness. Then, a minute later, the same thing happened with Lizzie. He narrowed his eyes in confusion and asked, How could they just lose consciousness out of the blue like that? I don't know, I answered honestly. Can you do something about it? He asked me. I will try. Alodar. I stared at my creations through the glass with a smile on my face, knowing the time would soon come. Interrupting my thoughts, the door opened abruptly before slamming shut a second later, my blood boiling the moment I heard his voice. How much longer? Tyson asked impatiently, but I kept my eyes set, observing and making sure that my plan worked. Slamming his fist down on the table, he asked again, How much longer? Ever so slowly, I turned around, keeping my face expressionless, and approached him. He didn't move away from even when I stood an inch from his face. The look on his face said he was trying to provoke me, or maybe that he was testing me, not liking either of those possibilities. I grabbed the collar of his shirt, looked him in the eyes, and very quietly said, Do not test me, boy. If I wanted to, I could kill you right here. Remember that. I released his collar and walked to the liquor cabinet to pour myself something to drink. I'm sorry, I'm just tired of waiting, Elodar, Tyson said. I poured 2 glasses and offered him one. He accepted it and gulped it down in one go while I took a sip of mine. You won't have to wait too much longer, so our plan will initiate and you will have what your heart desires the most. He smiled wildly and he clinked our glasses before I gulped down the rest of my drink. And I think that's a good stopping point right there. Olivia. How you doing, darling? I was playing the theater. Yeah, I don't know if I'm that good at acting. Thank you, Amanda. But this gets us all the way up to chapter 5, and I don't want to give too much away. That's the reason I don't. We're flying through chapters quite. Oh, ooh, there's a bunch of chapters. I didn't realize this. Dang, girl. This could have been 2 books on its own. 82 chapters with 2 epilogues. 2. Dang it, girl. I thought all social media was blocked in Russia, Miss Olivia. I'll read one more chapter since Olivia just got on here and everything. So give me just one. I'll read one more chapter. Azrael. Logan, that was good. Let's try the frontal high kick now. And Jared, you try to block his attempt. I gave them instructions as I stood next to the trainer, Gareth, on the outside of the ring. Logan and Jared sparred again, doing as I instructed them when I heard someone calling my name. Az! Damon called from a distance. He looked like he was in a hurry. Excuse me, Gareth. I'll be back. I left the training session to speak with Damon. As soon as he reached me, I asked, Is everything okay? He looked around frantically concerned. No, where's him? I arched my eyebrow. Him? Rolling his eyes, he said, Don't start with that again, Marcus, where is he? Marcus is in a meeting. What's going on, Damon? Olivia and Lizzie, they both fainted. He informed me. Ugh, we heard us from behind us. Logan was standing up from being on the ground, and Jared was frozen with wide eyes. I'm sorry, Logan, Jared said, looking apologetic. But Logan waved him away and rushed towards Damon and I. What did you say? Logan asked Damon. Olivia and Lizzie both fainted in the back garden while they were with Talia. We brought them inside the house, and Damon didn't get the chance to finish before Logan rushed off towards the mansion, running like hellhounds were hunting him down. You said they fainted in the garden? I asked him, and he nodded. Yes, I was walking through the garden when I saw Talia on the ground holding Olivia in her lap and using her magic to hold Lizzie up so she wouldn't fall. She called for help when she saw me, so I rushed to help her, Damon said. I furrowed my brow, scrunched my eyebrows. Why did they faint? Did someone put something in their food or drinks? Damon shrugged and said, I have no idea, but Talia is trying to figure out what happened to them right now. We should go and see if they need any help, I said, and we headed that way. We have to tell Marcus about this, Damon said, and I agreed. I'll try to mind link him, I informed him as I dove into the link that connected me with Marcus to try and reach out to him. The wall he placed up was like steel, though, and I couldn't pass the message to him, which was making me feel frustrated. When we got to the mansion, we went upstairs to Olivia and Marcus's room and saw Talia look up when we opened the door, the light in her palm going out. Before we could say anything, she asked, Could you both please step outside the room for a moment so that I can finish up? I'll call you in when I'm done here. We did as she asked and left the room, and as soon as we were in the hallway, Damon says, Did you talk to Marcus? Shaking my head, I said, No, he blocked everyone out, but I'll try again. Damon leaned with his back pressed to the wall and arms crossed over his chest as we waited for Talia to call us inside. Determined to break through the block Marcus had on our link, I figured I'd use the moment to try to get through to him again. I'll get through to him, even if that's the last damn thing I do. Hell, not even fucking charms could stop me from breaking through their barrier when I was saving Talia. Shaking off the memories of the past, I focused and pushed hard on the barrier that Marcus created. Using a lot of my mental strength to break through, finally I managed to pass his barrier and heard his confused voice in my head asking, "What the hell, Azrael? You know I'm in a meeting with Longwood Pack and Turnbrill Pack Alphas," he said. But I cut him off without hesitation. Marcus, Olivia, and Lizzie both fainted. Marcus, Olivia, and Lizzie both fainted, and a while ago when they were in the back garden with Talia, I told him. "Where is she?" he asked. He sounded winded, and I knew he was on his way back already. "She is with Talia in your room. Don't worry, Talia is doing a checkup. I'm on my way," he said, and then cut our mind link. When I looked over at Damon, he gave me a look asking if I reached Marcus. I nodded, confirming to him that I did. Not having any other choice but to wait, I leaned against the wall, just like Damon, and waited for Marcus to arrive or for Talia to call us inside, whichever happened first. Talia. I focused my magic on Olivia as I moved. Oh, yeah, Olivia, did you know you were in this? Just saying. I focused my magic on Olivia as I moved my hand in a circular motion above her head and then her chest. When I started to move my hand above her stomach, my eyes flew open as I felt something. The glow in my palm stopped as I rushed to the bathroom for a glass of water to give her. I got back just in time to see Olivia's eyelids flutter before they opened. She was confused when she noticed she was in bed and not outside in the garden. "How? What happened?" she asked. I smiled, hoping to reassure her that she was okay, and handed her the glass of water and helping her sit up. She greedily gulped down the glass, and I waited for her to finish before I answered her question. When she was done, and I took the empty glass from her and placed it on the night table and said, "You and Lizzie both fainted in the garden right before we got to see Annie. Do you remember that?" Her eyes went wide as she reached for her covers in an attempt to get up. "Oh my goddess, we have to go and see how Lizzie is." I stopped her by placing my hand over hers and said, "Lizzie is fine. I'm sure Logan and the doctor are with her now. But you need to rest and take care of yourself right now." Her eyebrows scrunched together as she looked at me in confusion, so I thought of a way how to approach the subject. I asked, "Did you eat anything else besides those cookies today?" Leaning back down with her back pressed against her pillows, she thought about my question before she answered. "I made Marcus breakfast since he had to get up early for his meeting, but oh no, I haven't eaten it. I haven't eaten then. I had to help one of my pack members as she asked me for help when I was just about to eat. I forgot to eat anything else after that. I guess I got weak because I skipped a meal." Shaking my head away, I looked at her sternly and said, "No more skipping meals. You need to eat healthy and take better care of yourself now." Her eyebrows furrowed with a look of confusion. I had never spoken to her like this before. "I'm fine and okay. I won't skip any more meals." She rolled her eyes and sparked at me, trying to ease the tension. Giving her a reassuring smile so she would know I wasn't upset with her, I asked her, "I know you and Marcus are still learning about your new positions and all, and such titles give you both many tasks and responsibilities, but you two have been mated for a while now, and I see that you're juggling everything better than when you had just started. So I wanted to ask you, have you two talked about having your own family yet?" Her cheeks heated up and she looked shy and embarrassed. Clearing her throat, she says, "We haven't yet." She looked away and asked, "Why do you ask that?" Chuckling, I reached out and grabbed her hand so she could look at me. And with a gentle smile on her face, I said, "Because I think it's time for you two to have that talk now." Okay, now that's it because you can hear my throat. Sister Olivia, you just won't do, darling. All right, everybody. Thank you, Miss Amanda. I appreciate you letting me read your book. I like. And you don't have to talk to Ori about all the links and stuff where it's at and all that good stuff. Tomorrow night we are reading The Kingmaker's Sons, and it starts with Cain, I think, by H.M. Wolf. Let's see. The Kingmaker's Sons, Cain. Okay. So y'all have to be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. You hear me? Alrighty. Y'all have a good evening, and I shall see you tomorrow. Don't forget to wear your green tomorrow. I'm Irish. You may kiss me, but you can't pinch me. Don't like no pinching, but I do love kisses. So I'll have my green on tomorrow. Don't know what shade I'll have yet. Still debating. Alrighty. Y'all have a good evening, and I will talk at you tomorrow night. Happy reading.